Hi! So today I wanted to show you how you can make loading screens in Godot 4. Now here I just have a very generic loading screen. This here is just a texture progress with some textures put into it. Nothing special, it doesn't actually do anything right now. Here's just a number, this can be displayed, just some text, labels, whatever. If we go into the script, currently it does nothing. I also have two scenes. Now if we look at the first scene, well, all it really does is go to the second scene if we press a button. If we take a look here, it's just an empty scene, a label, a button to go to scene 2. Now if we do that, scene 2 is a bit larger. Scene 2, you can see here I actually added a bunch of preloaded large files just to slow it down a bit, because otherwise we won't get to see the loading screen. But now currently we don't have a loading screen yet. Currently it just immediately presses the button, goes to scene 2 and loads it while the game is running immediately. What happens then is it basically freezes. Now right now the game is doing stuff, but it's basically unresponsive. It's just kinda stuck. And there the scene is loaded. There's a few things going on, but those aren't even the main thing slowing it down. It's mostly the images I'm loading in the background that don't really do much. Okay, so ignoring that, let's see, how can we make this nicer? We want this loading screen. So first of all here, in the script for our loading screen itself, this is the loading screen, this is the script. We want to be able to start loading something. What do we want to load? Well, that's a bit of a thing. We want to load the second scene, right? So let's just say var next scene is equal to scene2.tscn, that should be fine. And we're going to change this later. But for starters, let's just see. Function ready. And we definitely want the resource loader. Load threaded request. So this is how we start. This is how we ask it, please start loading our thing in the background while the current scene keeps doing what it's doing. So we can say next scene, and it's going to start loading that, but we won't actually see any progress yet. Now what we can do in the progress function is we can say var progress equals an array, and this has to be an array because that's basically just how it's implemented right now in the resource loader. I'm not entirely sure why it's implemented this way, but here we are. So this is what we use. We have our progress as an array. It's just going to have a single number in it after. We can say resource loader dot load threaded get status, because we want to know how close to loaded this thing is, right? So we want to be able to display a number like 10% loaded or whatever. So we can just say our next scene is what we want to use here. So it knows what we're trying to get the progress of, and then our progress variable. Now we have the progress number and progress by over here, which is what I renamed the UI elements to. So we can say $progress bar dot value equals to progress. That's this progress here is the same variable at position 0 because there is only the position 0. And this one gives us a number between 0 and 1. So 1 is fully loaded, 0 is not loaded at all. So to get a nice percent value we can display, we just multiply it by 100 and good is. Then we can do the same thing for the progress number. Dot text equals string of progress at position 0. Again, times 100, so we have a nice value here. And add a percent symbol at the end just for decoration. For the progress bar here, just make sure that it's actually set to be in the range of, where is it here, min value 0, max value 100, because then the percent thing actually makes sense. And I added the step to be in 0.5 increments, but you can set that as whatever precision you would like. And that means that at this point it should actually do that. Now in scene 1 we can for now just say loading screen.tscn, and that should be fine. And let's give that a shot and see if I am missing anything right now. There we go, it's already loading. it's filling this in whenever stuff is loaded. The loading bar turns more blue. This number is updating. Currently, it's not actually going to the next scene yet, because we didn't do any code for that, but it's loading it fully. So now in the loading screen, all we really have to do is say if progress at position 0 again. We're already checking the progress anyway, so we can just say if it's 1, if it's fully loaded, move to the next scene. So how do we do that? So first we want the packed scene, that is the scene we're going to next. And that is resource loader dot load threaded get. That's the same as here, but without the status. And next scene again. So always, as long as it's the same scene it's loading, it knows what we're referencing, so it's fine. So now we're just saying the thing you previously got requested and started loading, and the thing that we kept checking the status on, now give it to us and put it into this variable. So now that we have this variable, we can move to it. So get tree, change scene to packed. That's why I called it packed, because it is a packed scene we can put into this function. And now, if the thing finishes loading again, it's going to move to scene 2. Let's give it a moment. And there you go. It moves to scene 2 as soon as it's finished. So that's technically a finished functional loading bar. But I don't like the thing we have up here, because now in the loading bar we have hard-coded what scene we want to go to. Now a bit of a neater way to do that is to make use of autoloads. So what I will do is I create a new script. I'm just going to call it globals. We don't have to capitalize that here. There we go. Project settings, autoload. Grab the script we just made, globals, add it. There we go. Now we have a globals variable. Basically we have a thing to access this, and it will access the script for us. So in here we can put the var next scene, and we just specify that it's a string, but we don't really need to put anything into it. Or we can set a default variable, so if nothing else is input, then it will just go to scene 1. So this means now if we just start the loading screen without anything to load, it's just going to go to scene 1 for us. Now, one more thing we can do here is we can actually preload the loading screen in here, and we don't actually have to load that twice ever. So loading screen equals preload rest loading screen tscn. And with this in this variable means that the loading screen itself should be fairly small. So it shouldn't really cause any stutter, right? It's not like the loading screen is going to be doing a whole lot. So this thing can just always stay loaded in this variable. And whenever we want to use this, we can just change to that scene and tell it ahead of time what to use. So let's just go into scene 1 and update this code a bit. So first we want to say globals.next scene. We need to tell it where do we want to go if we come from the scene. So we can just say res:// scene2.tscn, and that should be fine. Now we don't have to do this anymore. We can just say globals.loading screen. We could even factor this out into a single function in the global script, however you prefer really, but I think you get the idea of how this works. So now we set this string, then we swap to the loading screen. The loading screen gets initialized, and we don't want this anymore. And it's going to read the next scene from globals now. So we do globals.next scene, copy this, change these. And now whatever is in globals is what we're going to load in the ready function. Now this should be fine. This should be finished. Let's give this a test just to make sure it's all working. But technically, we want to start with loading screen. So now we're running loading screen, not scene 1. And it should just immediately move to scene 1 because there isn't much to load. There we go, loading screen moves us to scene 1. Scene 1, this button takes us back to the loading screen, which loads with the data that's in our global script, and it moves over to scene 2. And now we have a reusable loading screen we can use to move from any scene to any other scene, and it will just load stuff, and if it's quick, then the loading screen won't even be visible. But if you do end up in a situation where a lot of stuff has to be loaded in the background and you don't want people to think that their game is frozen or whatever, you can use this, loading screen will show up, and all is well. This will be all for today. Bye.